It happened without a sound. No explosion, no warning, just silence. One moment the world was a web of digital whispers, the next every phone went dark. Our glowing rectangles, once lifelines, became useless glass and metal. Humanity, so dependent on these devices, was suddenly alone with its thoughts. The global brain had flatlined. Imagine, a mother in Tokyo, a stockbroker in New York, a teenager in London, all staring at blank screens. It wasn't a power outage. Lights worked, TVs flickered, but our most personal tool was dead. This was a silent technological apocalypse. 1 second a text was being sent, the next nothing. People reached for chargers, but the screen stayed black. Horror spread. Not through messages, but through shouts and confused glances. The world had woken up in a different century. Every phone everywhere was affected. It was as if a law of nature had changed overnight. The invisible signals that carried our lives had vanished. Humanity was about to learn how fragile its creation truly was. The great silence had begun. Across the globe, people realized the digital world was gone. The ties that bound us had been severed. The world was suddenly vast, disconnected and uncertain. We stood at the edge of a new chapter, unsure what would come next. The silence was total, and it was only the beginning. The world, unplugged, was about to be tested. The sun rose on confusion. Digital alarms failed, people overslept, missing appointments they couldn't confirm. The morning routine, news, weather, messages was gone, replaced by a void. Families realized they were cut off. How would they coordinate? How would they know loved ones were safe? Certainty vanished. The day ahead was unmapped, communication crumbled. No ride shares, no quick messages to explain delays. Public transport faltered, drivers lost without GPS, schedules a mystery, streets filled with bewildered people, isolated despite the crowds. Commerce stalled, coffee required cash, banking apps were useless, digital wallets locked, lines formed at banks and ATMs as people scrambled for cash. The convenience of the digital age had vanished, exposing our dependency. At home, the silence was profound. Parents couldn't check on kids, friends couldn't make plans. Social updates disappeared, replaced by quiet and uncertainty. People looked out windows, listening to their neighborhoods for the first time in years. The digital buffer was gone. Reality demanded attention. The world felt unfamiliar, unpredictable, and raw. People were forced to engage with their surroundings and each other. The real world, once background noise, was now impossible to ignore. The real crisis began when survival systems failed. Emergency services were crippled, no calls for help, no mobile dispatch. Hospitals scrambled, relying on runners and landlines. Patient records were harder to access, care coordination became chaos. Seconds lost meant lives lost. Banking and finance teetered. Two-factor authentication vanished. People were locked out of accounts. Businesses couldn't process payments. The global supply chain fractured. Trucks stopped, ships waited, deliveries slowed to a crawl. Transportation networks seized up. No ride shares, no real-time updates, navigation apps dead. The world felt immense and difficult to traverse. Our freedom of movement was revealed to be deeply tied to fragile technology. Work changed overnight, remote jobs vanished, the gig economy collapsed, businesses lost their digital voices, offices filled as people returned, creating chaos. Schools and universities scrambled, reverting to paper and face-to-face teaching. Parents and students lost instant communication, learning became local and physical. Families had to coordinate the old way. Notes, meeting times, trust. Dinner tables filled with conversation instead of screens. Neighbors, once strangers, began to talk and help each other. Community boards became vital. Local connections replaced global ones. Society began to rebuild, one conversation at a time. Panic swept the world. Anxiety soared. Rumors spread by word of mouth. Was it a solar flare, a cyber attack, an act of war? The lack of information was terrifying. People hoarded batteries, radios, and paper maps, suddenly priceless. But soon, ingenuity emerged. People adapted, remembering old ways. Conversation returned. Notes were left, meeting places agreed upon. Radio stations became lifelines, broadcasting news and connecting communities. Messengers on bikes ferried urgent notes. Public squares filled with hand-drawn maps. Landline numbers were shared, phone trees organized. Practical skills, navigation, radio repair, clear speech became valuable. The digitally savvy struggled. Those with real-world knowledge thrived. Humanity learned to survive and even thrive by turning to each other. In the long term, the world slowed down. Global unity fractured, progress stalled, supply chains stayed fragile, the global village splintered. But anxiety and digital exhaustion faded. People became more present. relationships deepened. Society learned the cost of over-reliance on a single technology. Analog backups and local knowledge gained new value. The crisis forced a balance between new tools and old wisdom. Humanity was compelled to ask, what does it mean to be truly connected? In the silence, we rediscovered the strength of trust, community, and genuine human contact.